about organic food marketing. So a couple of things would be, if I can share few things, it may be easy for you, then we can have an interaction. In India, local direct sales by farmers directly to consumers is exempted up to 12 lakh rupees per annum. Whether it is individual farmer or a group of farmers, it's a 12 lakh rupees is the maximum ceiling. So if it is a cooperative which is selling directly, also 12 lakhs is the ceiling, and if individual farmers is selling also is a 12 lakh rupees is the ceiling. And beyond that, it is mandatory to have an organic certification, and particularly for the food business operators, which means anyone who is selling food in the name of organic. So if they're labeling any food as organic or natural, it is mandatory to have a certification. And there are two kinds of certifications in India. One is called PGS certification, second is called NPOP, which is a national level standards approved by EPIDA. In terms of standards, both follow the same approach. So PGS and NPOP follow the same set of standards, which are called national standards for organic production. So NSOP is the standard. So both follow the same set of standards, but the difference is in terms of verification. So participatory guarantee system operates based on small groups, where group stands as guarantee for certification. NPOP system is based on external certification agency doing the certification. And if we are getting into international markets, we need to have additional certificate which is based on the importing country. So from India, if we are exporting to US, we need to have an USDA certification. If we are doing it for EU, we need to have an EU certification. If we are doing for Australia, we need to have an Australian certification, like that, in addition to NPOP. So NPOP is not sufficient. We need to have an additional certification. Earlier, this additional certification was also accredited by EPIDA, but now that is removed, and from 2021 January onwards, all new agencies which are getting into organic certification essentially has to get approval from the USDA or EU directly. So that's what is the new rules say. And certification is not only mandatory for producer, but all players in the supply chain. For example, if you are a producer and if there is a processing facility and if there is a food business operator who brands and sells, three of them has to have certificate, and then product, when it is transferred from producer to the processor to the food business operator, it gets transferred. If one agency is doing all these activities, they should have certificate for all these three activities. So for example, if you are a farmer producer organization or a private company which is doing organic production, processing and marketing, still you need to have these three certifications. So the three certifications are important: production, processing and marketing. So it gets transferred from one to another. So in terms of transition strategy, my suggestion morning was also that first, let's have good agriculture practices across the country to follow. And when we are talking to farmers in the villages also, cut down on the most harmful chemicals, most harmful pesticides, weedicides kind of thing, then become pesticide free. So from pesticide free, we can move towards organic. And then when large number of people cut down on pesticide use, the problems of pests and diseases will come down significantly as a strategy. But when you are selling in the market, you can only sell based on what practices you follow. So if you are pesticide free, if you are GAP, you can only claim that you are pesticide free or you are following a good agriculture practices. You cannot claim as organic. The moment you talk about organic, it should be organic certified, and organic certification is for 3 years. So 2 years you need to mandatorily follow the guidelines. Then the third year you get a certificate to sell as organic, and in the first 2 years you will get certificate as PGS India Green, and then post 2 years, so third year you will get PGS India Organic certificate. And once you get PGS India Organic certificate, the product can be sold to any player. Otherwise, PGS India Green, you can only sell directly, you cannot sell to other players, so certificate cannot be transferred. So transfer certificate can be issued only for PGS India Green. And in the market currently, what we are seeing is, if it is pesticide free or good agriculture practices, you may get about 5% premium. And if it is PGS India green, PGS India organic, you can get about 10 to 15% premium. And if you have an NPOP certification, you can get 15 to 20% premium. And if you have an international certificate, which you can sell in the USDA, or USA, or Australia Organic, or Japan, or EU. So any of these certificates, if you have, then you can get about 35 to 40% premium. So the premium depends on where you sell and what kind of certificate you have. And the certificate is for the piece of land, and every crop which is grown in that field, every season you need to register with the concerned certification agency. They will verify and give you the certificate. So that's the process. And like this USDA, Australia Organic and all, Government of India has now come up with a new certification system called as Jaivik Bharat, and Jaivik Bharat logo can be used for both PGS India or India Organic. Either of it you can use. Now there is also a discussion about transiting from PGS India towards India Organic certification within 1 year, provided the PGS India certification is already there. So 1 year transition is something which is under discussion. Second discussion is also going on in terms of harmonizing PGS in across the countries, because USA also has a PGS system, Australia also has a PGS system, Japan also has a PGS system, EU also has a PGS system. So there is also discussions going on about harmonizing PGS across the world as well. So they are the policy changes which we are expecting to happen, but as it stands, you need to have either PGS India certification or India Organic certification to sell domestically. And if you want to sell in international markets, the concerned certificate you need to have. Very unfortunately, the certification agencies approved by USDA are not approved by EU, and certification agencies which are approved by EU are not approved by USDA as it stands. So both you need to get certificate from different agencies, not the same agency at this point of time. Probably the issue will be resolved in the years to come, but as it stands, these two certificates are by different agencies. So when you are planning the whole transition, when you are planning the market, you need to keep in mind where you are going to sell, because that based on that you get into certification, and based on that you also plan for production, and then based on that you also need for processing, and based on that even your packet in which you sell has to be designed, because the packet should carry the logo along with the certification number. So if you have to have all these, your plan should be a long-term one. It cannot be after harvest, you cannot look for a market. So before sowing itself, you should have a market plan. That's what is very, very important when it comes to organic marketing. And what we follow is we organize farmers into cooperatives and farmer producer organizations, where we have 3 community resource persons at the village level. One who supports on production. So we run farmer field schools for 1 year, and after that we run pest surveillance and farm advisory services to them. So this is one set of community resource persons we have. Second set of community resource persons we have is to manage the PGS data, who manage the data for the farmers, which plot, what crop is taken, and how much is the production which is going to come in, so that we can aggregate and then look for a market. Third is again market CRPs, where they look for they are taught about quality management practices in harvesting, post-harvest handling, how to aggregate, how to manage the data while sourcing. All that they are trained. So this is the approach which we take. So when you are talking about markets, very careful planning is something which is very, very critical. Otherwise, capturing market is not going to happen. So the way it happens is the certification, like I mentioned, it is for the land parcel. Means every piece of land, say if a farmer has 4 acres of land in 2 locations should get the certification. And only that particular location which has certification, you can sell the product as organic. And if you have more than one location, if you have more than one piece of land, and in that if you are doing organic as well as conventional in separate land parcels, you need to maintain the data very, very carefully. So it is called parallel production. So if you have a parallel production, there is a certification system which verifies that. So you need to keep it separate. For example, I may have paddy which is conventionally grown in particular plot, and next plot I may have organic paddy which is grown. So I need to maintain the data in terms of how I am maintaining the separation. That is very, very important. So in the PGS system, what we do is we get farmers aggregated together. So 15 to 25 farmers at the village level, they are formed into PGS groups, and they do the production planning, etc. And at the block level, they are all organized into farmer producer organizations, and they get the support for extension, participatory guarantee system, and aggregation. And at the federation level, federations are very important, either at the district level or at the state level. We need to look for federation because all the legal systems can be handled by the federation. Same FPO handling both is very difficult. So federations can do the value addition and marketing. So forward linkages can be done by the federation, backward linkages can be done by the primary FPO. That's the model which we are now trying out in different locations. Another very important thing is about the traceability. So traceability is mandatory. So from which farmer, from which plot the particular product has come in, that data we need to manage. So when we are selling a product to any agency, we will transfer not only the certificate but the entire data along with the certificate. So when a buyer buys from say 25 farmers, say 10 tons of red gram, so the buyer will have all the information about which farmer, which plot that crop has been grown, and what has been grown in that plot for the last 3 to 4 years kind of thing. So that's how the transfer of certification works, and that's how traceability in organic practices work. And each packet, when you are selling in the market, should carry certification details from where you can actually trace back to the farmer group. It's mandatory, and that number has to be mentioned. So you can also put in a QR code for that. And we also, in addition to this, we also tried from Sahajaram CSA, we also tried to quantify the ecological footprints. So in addition to that, we also quantify water usage, we also quantify the environmental footprint of the food, and then that is also put onto the packet as a second code. So the ecological footprint and economic footprint are also quantified and then put it onto the packet. So the way it can be organized, if you are into a farmer, if you are an individual farmer, you can sell directly. But the moment you get into an organized community to sell in the market, you need to follow participatory guarantee system or an ICS system. So if you can manage this, and at the producer organization level, have subcommittees, particularly for the quality management, and that quality management is in production. Quality management needs to be at the procurement level, post-harvest handling. At all these levels, there are quality standards which you need to be followed. So once you follow that, the FPO can get into the market. And at the farmers level, what we are trying out is to provide support services. So whether you call it as agri clinics or you call it as farmer service centers, we need 6 kinds of support services available to the farmers if they have to make the transition. One is on the training and advisory. So proper training in terms of what practices can be followed, what crops can be grown, depending on the soil type, depending on the weather conditions, depending on the market. So what can be done is something which is very, very critical. Second is surveillance and farm advisory services is important. So every farmer may not be able to follow what pests and what diseases are coming in. So we need to have a surveillance system. So pest surveillance system at village level, because today we don't have the localized surveillance system, very centralized system which may not work. So we need to have a very localized surveillance system. In addition, we also run a problem diagnostic system where a farmer with soil problems or farmers with pest and disease problems, they can come to any of our service centers. So we do the diagnosis and then help them. So there's a mobile application available for this, which I will share with you. It's called Pestoscope. You can diagnose the problem easily, and that's how the farmer service centers provide this training and advisories. Similarly, access to loan, insurance, input sales. So the bio inputs which are locally produced or produced by other FPOs, customizing services of implements and other skilled labor services, market linkages, and access to entitlements and support. So these are the 6 support services which we are trying to provide to the farmers. And when we are talking about markets, very important is we also need to look at across the supply chain, how do we deal with that? Every crop has particular issues in production, particular issues in post-production as well. So for example, if you're talking about paddy, if you're talking about sustainable paddy supply chain, sustainable rice production looks at, in addition to being organic, we also need to cut down on the water usage, because water usage in rice is very, very high. When we talk about cotton, for example, child labor is very important, because the cotton gets into textile industry, and textile industry is trying to be socially responsible, and then they are following some of the conditionalities put in by ILO for which they call it as FPRW, fundamental principles and rights at workplace. So that is applicable at the production level also. So you need to follow those things. So likewise, every supply chain has its own requirements which we need to follow, and accordingly we need to manage the entire supply chain. So production, processing and value addition, and for marketing. So we need to have this supply chain built and then deal with that. So what we try to do, and then some of our FPOs, and also we are able to get good results, is organize farmers into cooperatives and then organize federations of them. So the primary FPO at the village level focuses on improvising last mile delivery of support services and first mile aggregation of products. These two are the main responsibilities of the primary FPO. Whereas the federations of FPO can be at the district level or a commodity based. So we have a vegetable producers cooperative in Telangana, which is working in 12 districts, and then it sells daily about 150, around 15 tons of vegetables every day. So that's a level of efficiency it can be achieved if there is a federation model which we can look at. Similarly, processing hubs, ethnic food enterprises, local markets, export market, there are several opportunities, but opportunities can only be captured if properly planned and dealt with. And I already mentioned earlier on this, the local market, domestic market, and global market all have different requirements of logistics, quality requirements, and the premiums, and then the competition. But many times we simply ignore these things and think since there is say rice today is sold at 400 rupees in the EU market or the European or the US market, we think farmers in India are only in the Indian market rice is sold at 50 rupees, so in the European market it is sold at 400 rupees if it is organic. So there is a quite a big gap, so we can capture the market. It is not that easy. We also need to follow the set of standards which need to be followed, and then figure out how you can deal with that, because there are different sets of rules and regulations in every market. And similarly, the moment we start value addition, many times we are all told value addition can help farmers. Similarly, removing middlemen can help farmers. But we also need to understand middlemen also adds value. And if the middleman is removed and if we have to do the same value addition, it could be many times it could also be very expensive. Say for example, if you have to do a very fine rice processing, you need to have a sortex machine and then a kind of high premium processing facility which may deal about say 2 to 3 tons per hour, and FPOs or individual farmers may not be able to afford that. So we need to figure out what we can do, and then where do we partner with others so that it can be done on a better way. Similarly, competition also changes. So for example, if I'm selling my tomatoes, my competitor is a fellow farmer. But the moment I'm selling tomato ketchup, my competitor changes. I have to actually compete with the quality and the price of, say, Kisan by Hindustan Liver. So if the Hindustan Liver's quality and Hindustan Liver's price I have to meet, then all my production planning, my processing, everything will change. So we need to understand markets in a better way. Don't get emotionally carried away saying the markets are cheating farmers, so we can sell directly to the consumers. It's not going to happen, and it may happen on a very small scale. And don't draw your lessons from very small experiences. Say, if I have 10 tons of production per year, I can sell very easily. If I have 100 tons, it may not be that easier. And if I have 200 tons, then it is much more difficult. So depending on the volume of products, the problems and opportunities changes. That is the critical thing we need to look at. Like earlier I mentioned, organic market is growing significantly. We can certainly capture the organic market if it is planned well. 14,050 crores is the last year organic market, in which 11,050 crores is the export market itself. Domestic market is only 3,800 crores, in which 2,000 crores is the organized domestic market, 1,800 crores is the a farmer market which sells directly, which is not under certification. So the market growth is around 28% domestically, around 23% internationally, and it is expected to double by next 4 years. So that's the expectations which we are seeing now. And today we are only having about 25,000 to 30,000 crores production, and it may be doubling in the next 3 to 4 years. So simply to put you in a right perspective to understand about markets, say if red gram is sold at the dal, tur dal is sold at 90 rupees in the market, farmer may be getting around 40 rupees of that. And 10% goes to the commission agent, 17% goes to the miller, 10% for the wholesaler, 13% to the retailer. So 90% is what goes into the goes for the consumer. So it is less than 50% of the price. Whereas if you look at, if you can organize it into a producer organization, and still consumer may get at 90 rupees, but farmer share will be 40 rupees, plus the commission agent will not be there, farmer will aggregate with other farmers together. So 13% will come for the farmer additionally, so it is 53 rupees for the farmer. And in addition, 14 rupees which goes for the miller can be retained by the FPO if FPO has a processing facility, and the wholesaler 10% will go to the wholesaler, 13% to the retailer will go to the retailer, and you can still sell at 90 rupees, but farmer can get about 53 rupees. So that's a strategy of aggregation. Whereas there is and value addition. So there is a strategy for aggregation, there is a strategy for value addition. So depending on the number of additional activities we do, we get the additional share. Similarly, when we talk about organic produce, the same tur dal, if it is organic, we can sell at 120 rupees. So in the 120 rupees, if the farmer share can be 60 rupees, cost of certification and aggregation can be 10 rupees, 14% will be the milling charges for the FPO, 10% for the wholesaler, and retailer gets 24%. And so in the 120, farmer share will be about 60 rupees. So nearly about 50%. Here it will be less than 50%. So that's here it will be less than 50%. That's a strategy which can be adopted. And if you can directly retail, you can retain this 10%, this 24% also. So depending on how many additional activities we do, we get the additional price. Expecting that 120 rupees will come to the farmer without doing any of these activities is not going to happen. So that's how we need to look at the markets. PGS Regional Council, I already said CSA is one of the PGS Regional Council. There are 52 regional councils, 65 regional councils in the country, and there are 64 service providers also. And CSA is providing PGS certification in 12 states. So certification can be for annual crops, orchard crops, livestock, beekeeping, wild collections and processing handling, and either individual farmers, group of producers, and area certification is also available. This is interesting. First time it is introduced in India, where if an entire village is organic, village can get a certification, and that will be based on 3 resolutions. One resolution by the farmers that they are going to adopt organic and natural farming practices. Second is by the government, the local government. The Department of Agriculture has to give a certificate that they have not permitted any sale of chemical fertilizers or pesticides in that particular village. Third should come from the Gram Sabha. The Gram Sabha can make a resolution that it will oversee that there are no chemical pesticides and fertilizers used in the village. So if that resolution can be made by the Gram Sabha, the village can get a certificate as an area certificate. And once they get an area certificate, entire village will be considered as organic, and any product produced in that village will get certification. There are schemes available for this. Every per acre there is about 2,000 rupees support available. If any villages are there which are nearly fully organic or default organic, we can use this as a scheme which can be used. And we are doing about 90 such villages in Chhattisgarh and few villages in Andhra Pradesh as well. There is a application which is available, mobile application which you can download and see. There is financial support available for marketing. So grants are available from NABARD for under Produce Fund to organize FPOs or PODF, and the farmer producer organizations in addition also can get support from other schemes for setting up any of these processing facilities, because Ministry of Food Processing has a lot of schemes which are now available. This is a 10,000 FPO scheme which Ministry also talked about. In that 1,000 FPOs are fully organic. And Department of Agriculture, Horticulture, Marketing also has a lot of support available for marketing. You can set up collection centers, you can set up cold storages, you can set up stores. So for all these, there are schemes available. Credit facilities are also available under NAPKISAN, NBFCs, commercial banks. So all these can be utilized. So from our side to support FPOs and organic farmers, so we have set up a website called fpohub.com, where input supplies or output products or the services which FPO needs are all aggregated. You can go through the website, you can register, you can get all these available. This is called fpohub.com. So the support available for FPOs are on the extension services for transiting towards organic, business planning, financial linkages, market linkages, and legal compliances. These are support services available for the FPOs. And in addition, we also do trainings and support services for entrepreneurship development, organic certification, FPO management. So we have tools which are available for managing the FPOs. We run a helpline called Kisan Mitra. And there is a mobile application which is available for this. So the domestic market, the way we can look at is organic farmers and FPOs. If we can also partner with food hubs, so processing facilities, we can set up the processing facilities together, or you can partner with the food processing facilities as well. Then you also need to look for logistics, where to supply. Say in Hyderabad, stores may require something from, say, Shimla. So how do we supply? So we need to figure out the logistics part, and then selling through modern retail or through the exclusive organic stores or through the e-commerce. Each one requires a strategy. So we have established all these partnerships. You can log into FPO Hub and then look at how you can use these facilities already available. And we run what is called as a Kisan Business School, and this is the course for 6 months for farmer cooperatives or individual farmers who want to learn about how to do business. So it is a participative approach where the farmers from production planning to final sales will happen by doing. And then it will be interactive and inclusive. So we'll have participation from the buyers, we'll have participation from the processors, we have participation from the bankers, we have participation from the regulatory agencies. So together over a season, they can learn about the Kisan Business School. The content and the manuals are available on the website, which you can download. And we also run an IT platform called eKrishi, which supports, which is a plug and play platform from production to consumption of organic food. eKrishi.in, you can get more details. So particularly for managing the farmer cooperatives from production to inventory management, traceability, and accounts management. So all these together, we developed a system called as Smart Co-op. It is a web-based system for managing FPOs. So any FPOs, if they are interested, you can connect to us. So for organic farmers, these are the 6 support services which are available from the FPO hub. One is extension services. So how to, what are the training programs, and then the diagnostic services, transition plans, all these are done under extension services. Bio enterprises to produce biofertilizers, biopesticides, seeds. So these are all can be set up as enterprises. So farmer service centers, agri clinics, if you are interested, we can work on these things. Similarly, diagnostic services, soil testing, pest and disease identification, and providing organic solutions. Food processing, because processing also requires certain standards which need to be followed. Market linkages, PGS certification. So these are the 6 support services for organic producers which are available from this organic hub. Pestoscope is the application which I mentioned earlier. So this is a completely based on imagery. So the moment you open the application, you can download it from Google Play Store. You can see the crop, and then from the crop you can identify the pests and diseases, and then you can find a solution. And if you cannot identify the pests and disease, you can take a picture and send it to us. Once you take the picture and add your observations, it locates based on the location. It can also take the local soil condition, and then the local weather conditions, based on which solutions will be provided.
Yeah, just I want to know how the monitoring of a farm is done once certification is given, because it requires continuous monitoring, whether the certification agency monitors it or somebody else monitors it.
See, there are 2 ways. One is the certification agency monitors under NPOP system. Participatory guarantee system, 10 to 15 farmers forms into a group, and it is the responsibility of the farmers to see that other farmers in the group also maintains organically. And if anyone is found to be violating, entire group will be blacklisted. So that's how a collateral guarantee system is established. And annually, at least 50% of the farmers will be verified by the certification agency, the regional council, and in which 1% of the samples randomly are picked up and tested for pesticide residues. So that's the process which is now under implementation.
And broadly speaking, organic farming also includes unethical, not practicing unethical practices like engaging child labor, and also not using genetically modified
GMOs are not allowed. GMOs are not allowed. In addition to that, some of these
even hybrid varieties are also not permitted, I think.
Yeah, Harimohanji.
So, ma'am, I am from Purnia, Bihar.
Yeah.
And my question regarding organic and natural farming is, how many years it takes to yield establishment of organic farming or natural farming? Or my second question is, how much area should used by a farmer under natural farming? किसी किसान के पास अगर होल्डिंग साइज छोटा है तो कितना एरिया उसको ऑर्गेनिक और नेचुरल फार्मिंग में रखना चाहिए? और दूसरा क्वेश्चन मेरा है कि नेचुरल फार्मिंग में यील्ड स्टेबलाइजेशन में कितना समय लगता है? क्योंकि 2-3 दिन पहले मैंने न्यूज में सुना है कि श्रीलंका में ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग शुरू हुआ, जिसके कारण से वहां पे फूड क्राइसिस हो गया है. वो वन ऑफ द मेजर कॉजेज बताया गया है कि श्रीलंका में जो अभी फूड क्राइसिस हुआ है, तो उसका एक कारण ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग को बढ़ावा देना भी बताया गया है. तो ऐसी परिस्थिति में इंडियन कंटेक्स्ट में जहां 140 करोड़ लोगों को हमें भोजन अवेलेबल कराना है और होल्डिंग साइज यहाँ पे छोटा है, तो कितने एरिया किसान को हमें सजेस्ट करना चाहिए, एडवोकेसी करना चाहिए कि आप नेचुरल फार्मिंग में जाइए?
ओके, रामांजनेयु गारू.
It depends on the farmer's convenience. So you can start with 1 acre.
अगर 1 एकड़ ही उसके पास जमीन हो तो कितना उसको करना चाहिए? यहाँ तो एवरेज होल्डिंग साइज 1 एकड़ से ज्यादा है नहीं किसी का.
So 1
एकड़ तो होल्डिंग साइज है ही, एवरेज होल्डिंग साइज 1 एकड़ है.
See,
not more than 1 acre is available in India.
See, if it is 1 acre,
average holding size is not more than 1 acre. How can I advocate to give 1 acre?
Sir,
yield establishment अगर ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग नहीं होता है तो उसको 1 एकड़ जमीन उसके पास अवेलेबल है, 1 एकड़ को उसको नेचुरल फार्मिंग में कैसे एडवोकेट किया जाएगा?
The whole issue is about अगर किसान के पास 1 एकड़ जमीन है तो उनमें क्या करना चाहिए, वही है ना आप पूछ रही है। उसमें अगर
जी, जी,
केमिकल्स
मैं-
डाल रही है तो सुनिए सुनिए
जी,
भैया सुनिए।
जी, जी।
आज के दिन देश, पूरा देश की किसान को अगर आप लिया तो पर एकड़ यील्ड्स, पर एकड़ नेट इनकम अगर आप देखा तो बहुत बहुत कम है ना। उससे
जी।
ज्यादा कम नहीं होने वाला है। आप ऑर्गेनिक और नेचुरल फार्मिंग गए तो उनको जो चाहिए ये आप उनको ये समझाना है और आप भी ये समझना है कि मल्टीपल क्रॉपिंग मॉडल में जाना है। अगर आपको 1 एकड़ जमीन है तो
जी।
1 एकड़ जमीन है तो आप क्रॉप इंटेंसिटी बढ़ाना चाहिए और सॉइल फर्टिलिटी भी बढ़ाना चाहिए। आप 2-3 फसल लेने की प्लान होना चाहिए,
जी।
देन इट विल बी बेटर।
यील्ड एस्टेब्लिश होने में कितना समय लगता है? कन्वेंशनल सिस्टम में जो यील्ड हो रहा है उस लेवल में आने में ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग से कितना टाइम लगता है, वेटिंग
सर
पीरियड?
पंजाब के सर पार्डन मी इफ आई आस्क ए क्वेश्चन, पंजाब में जितना यील्ड आ रही है उतना यील्ड मध्य प्रदेश में आने के लिए कितना समय लगता है? हर एक लोकेशन का अलग अलग सिचुएशंस होता है। तो जितना वो किसान को पहले आ रही है उतना यील्ड मैनेज करना है तो 1-2 सीजन लगता है। 1-2 सीजन में ट्रांसिशन हो सकता है इफ इट इज मैनेज्ड वेल। Right in the beginning I mentioned soil fertility management is very very important. It is not just about adding Jivamrit or doing mulching. So organic farming is a scientific approach which you need to follow. So if you are talking about all these practices effectively, you can manage the yields. Today we have data from more than 1 lakh farmers for over 5 years. It shows that yields have not reduced, and this is from various growing conditions, and this has been verified and done by various universities across the world. It's not just pharma universities in India. So there's a data which is available. The whole issue is about, are we making a proper scientific transition? That is very important.
थैंक यू सर।
Yeah, mainly relating to natural farming or natural farming, please ask certification and other things. Anyway, we have sessions. Now I'll request Dayanidhi. Dayanidhi.
Manthri madam. Madam, near about 85% of the farmers are small and marginal farmers. What question he has already asked. Okay. And they are having less than 5 acres of land. And the irrigation percentage is also very less in our country, 25%. In this case, and third thing, already what I have observed in the villages, now I am running 65. When in my childhood, every family they are having one bullock pair or cows are there. Now they have already replaced in our villages. That is the largest village of Odisha. But there are no bullock pair is very few. So from where the organic manure will come? Third thing, because the varieties now they have already replaced. The yielding varieties are there. The varieties which are actually responsive to the natural farming, where we can stabilize our yield, these varieties are not available locally also. So whether government is thinking about all these things, because these farm laws, 3 farm laws, both that was depend upon the FPOs. So I have asked one question in this forum also, because what is the success percentage of FPO? There is a 10 to 15% success of FPOs. So by going in a big way for this natural farming, so what happens in Sri Lanka, so it may happen also in India also. This is my question actually, because organic farming, organic manure is not available. People have shifted to the high-yielding varieties. The varieties are also not available. What sir has said, 85% of the our farmers are small and marginal farmers. They cannot take the risk of organic farming unless and until government go for as a federation type का करेगा और government खुद ही cultivation करेगा, then it can be successful for the organic farming. So heavy subsidies are there. So this is my question. Please answer.
Very interesting question. So let me start with one slide to show you what is happening with Indian agriculture first. Sir,
Yes, sir.
this is the income average in the farmers in India. This is from the National Sample Survey, which is latest available. So the income from cultivation is 3,000 rupees earlier, and today it is 3,798. This is what has been increased. That's all from 2013 to 2018. So it is 3,798 rupees per month is the annual income. If you look at annually, you can look at how it would be. So much of the income for farmers today actually is coming from the wages, not from the cultivation, and it is coming from the livestock. So it is not from the cultivation alone. This is what modern agriculture has done to the farmers. So please understand that. So when we are making a transition, we need to make arrangements for everything. So you mentioned about lack of animals. Yes, there are in the animals. That's where we are talking about using other biofertilizers and biopesticides as well. You can make use of them. Biomass you can grow on your farm. You can use your crop residues. You can grow on your bunds. Green manure you can do on your own. So all that is quite possible to do. You may not require the dung itself. You can use the biofertilizers and biopesticides, waste decomposer. There are several other things which can be made available locally. So it is not a difficulty at all. Coming to the Sri Lanka question, many people actually talk about Sri Lanka question. Let me explain you what has happened in Sri Lanka. See, Sri Lanka problem came in huge, not organic. Government is more than 1 crore subsidy on the chemical fertilizer. 2 lakh crores. That's what spending on chemical fertilizer. And same way, Sri Lanka was doing, they went up, and today 85% as annual budget
Voice
goes.
is not audible. It's not audible.
It's not because of the organic and natural. Not the case, sir. Yeah, I'll simply I'm trying to say is, if you want, I can share with you very detailed analysis. It is not because of the chemical fertilizers alone. It is because of the total indebtedness which has happened in the Sri Lanka, because government started borrowing more and more, and much part of the borrowings are also because of the chemical fertilizer subsidies also. So same thing is going to happen in India if you are continuing with the same level of usage of chemical fertilizers. That we need to understand.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Jay Raghavendra Rao sir, he's having some question, please. Jay Raghavendra Rao, sir.
Yeah, hello, Ramanjaneyulu sir. So nice of you. See, Ramanjaneyulu, see, I have a question, because we are extension workers. Tomorrow, when we train the Gram Pradhan, see, my experience in and around Karnataka and IHR is people are doing both. See, on one hand, they are increasing the organic matter content, and at the same time, they are also putting this fertilizer, and I think they are doing some integrated approach, because of which today we have ended up with 328.6 million metric tons of horticulture. So even we are doing soilless cultivation, aquaponics, hydroponics, and cocoa peat we are doing. So, but how to see, on one hand we say you should not at all use any inorganic, but they are using both. And the yields are also high, but the premium prices are obviously very difficult in the market, because people are not able to distinguish the organic tomato with inorganic tomato. So finally, even many studies conducted by me and my students also have proven that whether it is more big basket or anything, people are unable to distinguish in a supermarket level. So now when we train the Gram Pradhans, we'll have to tell them how to distinguish. That is point number one. Second thing is, see, any nitrogen or anything is taken in the ionic form. So we cannot really say that the nitrogen or phosphorus or anything has been coming from the organic source or inorganic source. But once when we apply this convincing factor, and there will be many takers for this. But right now it has become only a hype with the so-called very hyper class people. Thank you, sir.
Sir, let me explain. Actually, say if very educated people like you are unable to understand the problems with chemical fertilizers, expecting that farmers in the village will understand is difficult. Like I mentioned, the whole difficulty in chemical fertilizer production is in the production itself. Leave aside in the field, in the production itself. What is the use efficiency of urea? What is the use efficiency of urea? Go and talk to your soil scientists. They will tell you it is 25 to 30%. And the latest paper talks only about 15 to 20%. Even Government of India's reports talks about it. So why are we draining all our resources with that? Second, the energy used in urea production is huge and governments are unable to subsidize that. That's a point which minister was talking about. If you go through the entire data on chemical fertilizer production, you can see that, including on the fertilizer companies data, you can see that. Similarly, if India has to become net zero by 2070, the first and foremost thing we need to cut down is on the chemical fertilizer use. This is what the promise Government of India has made. So how do we deal with that is an important issue. Second, your question about, please sir, please listen.
Please,
Second, like you said, reducing chemical fertilizer use is always good. Reduce by 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. No one is questioning that. Why can't we have a plan of reducing fertilizer use by 30% by next year across the country? Let's have the plan. Why are we not making the plan? So the moment we talk about that, everybody is getting very emotionally attached to chemical fertilizers. So your own data shows that, ICR's data shows that the factor productivity has come down from 13 kgs to 2.4 kg. For every kg of it is a reality in front of us. Please understand, learn the new science. I'm only talking about learn the new science.
No, Ramu, there is no two doubts about the organic. I am very because I conducted a study in Peddapadu, very near that. What the Jurala project, I went to a village and there is a ZBNF farmer. So I did conduct the study. See, but unfortunately, two things are avoiding. One is the premium prices, which already we have discussed. The second thing is you take the fertilizer consumption data across India. Continuously, it is showing an increasing trend. It is not at all showing a decreasing trend. I told even Shailendra also, I just had a one-to-one talk. And I'm telling on one hand, the fertilizer consumption is continuously increasing. And so the production of horticulture and agriculture is also increasing. So the hypothesis, even I asked our agriculture economists, see, tomorrow if the natural farming takes up even about 30 or 40%, that means the production of fertilizer should come down. The consumption of fertilizer also should come down. And obviously, as our agriculture minister told in the morning, the subsidies given to fertilizer also should come down because of the Swavlamban Bharat and so on and so forth. But if you see the data as on date, you see anything, the trend is continuously increasing, both the consumption of fertilizers, at the same time the production also. That's all the worry. Otherwise, the organic farming as a concept, I am fully convinced because I've done so many PRAs also and I'm fully convinced. But why the data is showing this trend? So that means our farmers, even in reality, are doing both. See, and some people are even posing that they are organic. If you come near IAHR, many people say, sir, this is organic. Actually, the organic and inorganic produce is mixed and it has become a segmentation, targeting, positioning, branding exercise. That's all, sir. Thank you.
Yes. See, to establish that, government brought in a certification system. And the data management, see, that's one thing which is very important. In terms of factor productivities of fertilizer coming down, there is no second opinion anywhere. In terms of soil organic carbon going down, there is no second opinion on that. Say, if you are able to reduce it by 50%, please do it. No one is stopping you on that. We are only now discussing about a new initiative where people can talk about making a full transition if they want, right? Why are you not worried about the 99% of the farmers who are using chemical fertilizers? Why are we worried about the 1% of the farmers who want to stop? That's the point. So I think we need to look at.
But you did mention that the Sri Lanka crisis has got nothing to do with natural farming, whatever. But because of the loan. But this is also one of the issues that why their productivity came down and now they are in the begging stage.
Sir, when was the ban? Please listen. When was the ban on chemical fertilizers imposed in Sri Lanka? When?
I think about 1.5 years back.
Please listen. Yeah. It was in April. It was less than 1 year. It was less than 1 year. It is less than 1 year when people started shouting about yield reduction. It was less than 1 season actually people started shouting about it. Do you think yields will come down in 1 season?
No.
So it is all, sir, please understand, there is a larger
Sir,
game plans which are there.
Yeah.
Please understand.
Sir, Raghavendra sir, just others.
I finished, madam. Renuka ji, I have finished. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We are
Thank you.
very happy to we are our heartfelt thanks to your team, particularly Rajshekhar and Chandrasekhar also they cooperated very well. And thank you so much. And we are in touch with you in due course of time also. Thank you so much.